All right, everybody. Hey, we're here to talk about Police Quest 5. I was recording something, and then someone tried to call in and fucked up the recording, so I'm doing this again. But essentially, I focus heavily, if you watch any of my shit, on the stories, because the story and the lore is what is most interesting to me with some of these games. I will play a lot of games that are essentially walking simulators if the story and the world or the whole thing is interesting to me, because it draws me in, and that's the thing I'm most curious about, right? So that's my main interest, and then I'll talk about gameplay and stuff too. This is why I can play hundreds of erotic visual novels and regular visual novels, to be fair, as well, because I just enjoy the story aspect of them, and I read a ton of fucking books, and I enjoy all this stuff. But again, the main driving force for me for a lot of this stuff is the story. So video games are more interactive, and I enjoy the interactive parts, and I enjoy when the interaction can be a good interaction, and it feeds into the story, which is good. But I can literally just read or have a story told to me, and it's fascinating, interesting, right? I listen to audiobooks all the fucking time and whatnot. So I took notes on this game while I played it. This is Police Quest 5, which is it's a transition. It started off as being Police Quest 5, and then they decided we're going to call this SWAT. I don't think it was even called SWAT 1 at the time. It was just SWAT. But this is the first SWAT game, so this is kind of a transitional game, because the first 4 police quests are point-and-click adventures. This one is not that, but it has some adventure kind of components to it, and how you interact with the full motion videos that are here. And then from here on out, my understanding is the police quest games become tactical shooters. Right? And this kind of also has kind of aspects of the tactical shooting thing. Not a lot, but they are vaguely if you squint your eyes real hard, they'll pop up. So, and then I was thinking about the guy, the ex Los Angeles police officer who joined Sierra for Police Quest 3 and had his whole fucking monologue, and then he would berate you if you fucked up in the game and whatnot, and then how he had an influence on Police Quest 5 or Police Quest 4, and then this as Police Quest 5 was his last game that he interacted with these people on. And it's partially I'm about this guy. I like Police Quest 3 for the most part. Police Quest 4 is kind of bad. That's definitely an easy skip. And then this game, it's hard to even call this a game. This is more of a simulation. So if you get on Free God Games or Fit Girl or regular God Games or Dodie or regular Steam, you're gonna, if you just look up police simulation or police management or whatever, you're gonna find a lot of games, I guarantee, because I've seen a ton. But this is a 90s version of hey, you want to know what it's kind of like to be a member of SWAT in Los Angeles? Well, here you go. There's 4 aspects of this game. There's a documentary portion where you can just listen to interviews of guys who are in the SWAT in LA talking about doing their job. You can read essentially an encyclopedia of information about the different aspects of doing the job, the different requirements, what all the stuff means. And no lie, if you don't read at least some of this shit, you're gonna get into the quote unquote story missions, and you're gonna have no fucking clue what to do unless you use a guide. And there's no guide. There's one guide. It's one of those weird guides. I run into this thing every once in a while. It's these guides where it's it's not actually a guide. It's it wants to give you hints, and you have to click on things 100 times. So I respect the nobility of what they're trying to do, which is they just want to give you enough to get you kind of your brain going, so you kind of figure out what to do. But at the same time, the fact that I have to click and click and click and click and click to get the answer is super annoying. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. And then the last part is just a fucking shooting range. Yep, a shooting range that you have to pass all these things on. That you have to pass them, as in you just have to do them enough, and then you don't actually have to do any shooting in the actual story missions. So, and the story missions are very timed. So if you're just trying to figure out how to wave somebody forward, then it's and you fuck up, then it's you failed, get the fuck out of here. You got to wait around and wait for the story mission to pop up again, and it's that is annoying as shit. But if you some save scum, which you should always do in games like this, because you never know when you're gonna fuck it up, then you're able to kind of figure it out. And I'm not gonna lie, there were a couple times where it was I know what I'm supposed to do because I read all this fucking shit and watched these stupid documentaries, but the game is not allowing me to do what I'm pretty sure I'm supposed to do. And then I finally figured it out, but it involved moving the cursor to some place that didn't make any fucking sense. There was a point in one of these story missions where it's I just needed to cover a guy, and so I'm trying to click on him, I'm trying to cover, I'm trying to press something, and I keep getting kicked out of the mission. And finally, he's just trying to go through a doorway. I moved the mouse to all the way to the top of this door frame, and then there's an arrow that pops up that's go inside and it's the arrow you use to move around. And I click on it, and it's good job covering that guy. And I'm fuck you, game. But then I knew how this game play. Okay, that's how it's gonna work. The fun thing about the story missions, while we're here, is that they're random, and they all seem to have like 2 or 3 or 4 different, like, they're almost like roguelikes. And not that you get stuff from repeating them, but in the essence that, like, if you play like mission 1 and then you wait around and play, because you can just keep playing through these missions if you just want to keep playing this game forever. And when you play through the mission again, but you got to wait for it to be called in, right? Just like real SWAT. So when it gets called in again, you can go and you'll be assigned to like a totally different position, do a totally different thing. There's like a whole thing with like sniper training, and if you get the sniper training, one of the missions you can be a sniper. That was easily the best one. It was like the least confusing, most obvious, and like it was fun to just like chill and like, you know, with your like wingman, your spotter, that's what they call him, and do that, right? And so I love stories and stuff, and normally that's what I'm going to talk about. But I'll go over like the quick summary of each one of this quote-unquote story missions, but there's no connective tissue, right? Okay, so you start off and you get this introduction from like this lieutenant and this other guy who's like, one of them's like the leader of Delta Team or whatever, like not Delta Force, don't get confused. It's just like Delta Squad or whatever in like that Los Angeles Police Department SWAT team. And then you get introduced to like Garrick or something, who's like your fire team leader, right? They don't call him fire team, that's what we call it in the Army, but it's like he's like your team leader or whatever. And you're like, cool. And then they're like, all right, so what's what you're gonna do? You're new to the SWAT team. You got to go to the range. You got to practice this. You got to learn about the thing. You can use this computer over here, or the slide deck, and you know, figure it all out, and then be prepared for the call-ins because you never know when they're going to happen, which is true. They just kind of like randomly occur. So then you're left open, and what you can do is you can go to the range. There's 2 different ranges. You can go to the 2 different ranges. You can watch literal like Los Angeles Police SWAT members from like the early 90s just talk about what they do as a job, and there's like a ton of these like videos that you can just sit and watch. Then there's like that's like the documentary portion, and then there's like the encyclopedic portion where it's just like you can just like read about all the different call signs, about the different, like they have the thing where it's like, you know, if you whisper it'll like pick up the microphone because it's inside your ear or something, I don't remember, and just excuse me, I'm still sick. You can learn about negotiations and breaking in doors and then running as a team and like all this cool stuff, right? You can learn about all of it, and it's super interesting if you're into like police stuff and SWAT. And I honestly wanted to be a police officer. I wanted to be a traffic detective at some point, and so I applied in my home state, and then, you know, right before I was, and then like I didn't hear anything for like months because government jobs take forever for people to like get back to you, and so I did something completely different, and then I was in the midst of doing that when I got like the confirmation that I was accepted into like this program. And I was like, oh, well, fuck it. I guess I'm doing something different. My life could have been totally different. And this was like 20 some odd years ago. Anyway, so hilarity ensues. So I've always been kind of interested in the police thing and like particularly the detective thing. So these games are like right up my alley. I don't really want to be like a member of SWAT or anything crazy like that. I'm more into like the investigative portion of being a police officer, which is very interesting. Okay, anyway. Where was I going with this? Okay, so then there's that, and then there's the ranges. So there's the small arms fire range, and for those of you who have never been in the military or in the police force or anything, small arms can literally be a machine gun. It's like anything that is not like a cannon or on like a ship or a plane or a tank. Like small arms fire is something you can carry. So if you can carry it, it's like small arms fire, right? Like a fucking bazooka is like small arms fire, because it's small, right? Because so it's like a person can carry it. Okay, so you go there and you get to practice with like the different. Essentially, you have the first range, which you get to use like just the MP5, which is like a submachine gun that you use. It's like a tiny little like. It can be. It's like you have like a rifle, right? Like even like an automatic rifle, but. Those are a little bit bigger, like carbines and stuff. And then you have the submachine gun, which is a little more compact, and that's better for like urban environments. So that tends to be what they use. An MP5 is like the military police 5 or something. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I don't really know that. I've never actually shot one. I just know they use them in some places, but then generally more like in urban environments. And then you have like a carbine, which is, I think it's a Colt in this one, but that's what we use. That's what generally you're using in like the Army and stuff. Is the rifle, and then you get a pistol. So you can go to the range, you just MP5 it up, and then you can go to like a different range. And this one has like moving targets, and you have to shoot targets in a certain order and stuff. And you use your pistol for that. And then so you have like a carbine, and then you have like a shotgun, and there's like there's really no way to use them in like the training, because they never asked for it, and when you're supposed to follow orders, right? And sorry, and then they have a sniper range. You can go to sniper range, and that is like the best. So that was super fun. And they have this whole thing about like it was funny. They have this whole thing about checking like wind speeds and checking drop rate and had the distance and all this stuff. And the game comes with like a manual, and you're supposed to like check the manual based on like the wind and how the flag's flying and whatnot, just like in real life. And I was like, I don't have time for that shit. I'm just going to shoot, and then I'm just going to zero based on how I shoot, which is how I do it in real life too, which is not the right answer. Anyway, and so I did that, and I zeroed super quick, and then and then we got to like the actual shooting portion of like the qualifying of the range, and the little sock flag was like blowing all the way like on one side, and I just like shot straight center every single time, and was like, oh, I don't think the wind mattered. Like the game like goes into all this emphasis about how the wind matters, you're going to make adjustments, and even the guide that I was kind of looking at to try to figure out how to activate these fucking story levels was going off about it, but there was like, it ended up not fucking matter. Like I qualified immediately, and then I went out and like shot the fucking dude in the sniper level, like just crushed his soul. So that was awesome. All right, so there's like the 3 story missions, right? So like I said, you'll just be hanging out, and then you get like a woo 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 call. So the first call is like, maybe I'll pull up my notes for this. I can tell you like more specifically names and whatnot. Do I still have it open? I do. Okay. So, okay, yeah. So the first one is like some crazy lady. It's literally like a crazy lady, like a lady who like had a schizophrenic break or like a delirium or like an Alzheimer's thing. And so she like attacked her husband and pulled out a gun and like threatened to shoot him. And he like ran off to like go get his adult daughter who lives down the street. And they're like very worried about her. And she like boarded up the windows and stuff. So the idea is that you just got to go help this lady, right? And so you got to go in there because regular police officers, like they're not trained to like handle this kind of situation. But there's no negotiations. And so kind of the 2 options you get are you can go around the back, or you can like go in the front with the front team. And then again, it's like everything's random when you get in there. So it's like, where's she going to be? Is she going to be armed? Who's going to be doing what? Yada, yada, yada. But the main one I got is I just followed my team in. Eventually we like worked our way to like the bathroom in the back, and she was just hanging out in the shower with no weapons. So that was like super easy. Then you got to like go out and shoot the rangers some more, and I qualified for the sniper at this point, because when you first go to sniper range, you're just like practicing, and then you got to come back later, and then you can like a lot of it's like triggered by just like random stuff. Like I'm standing around and someone's like, hey, they're looking for another sniper, there's a qualifying going on if you want to go check that out. And I was like, oh hell yeah, I'll go do that. So I did that, and I knocked that out pretty quick. And then with all these things, there's like, when you're going to these missions, like the 3 story missions, you'll like go talk to neighbors, you'll talk to other police officers, and they'll just give you information. None of it's important to know. None of it really fucking matters. It just is like setting up the world. It's like a walking simulator, right? Like you can learn all this stuff and have like fun conversations with like FMV characters, or you cannot. Like it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Essentially, you just got to go talk to people because your commanding officer or sergeant wants you to do it, and if you don't do it, you get like punished by getting kicked out of the mission. All right, so the next one, there's like a warehouse, and there's like gunshots, and the lady owns it is like super concerned because there's like some autistic Mexican, and like, don't get mad, those are her words. So there's some autistic Mexican guy in there who she's very worried about because he's slow and stuff, and she doesn't know if he's the one with the gun or if there's somebody else in there with the gun. Spoiler alert, there's someone else. So then we assault, we go right in the front door, and we like move around, and then eventually we like track this guy, and he's trying to use Hombre over here as like a hostage, and we just like we peg him like in the gun arm, right? So you can shoot him in the head, but then everyone's like concerned because you're like trigger happy. But when you shoot him in their arm, everyone's like, all right, he survived, he's getting held accountable. And then you got to go through like a review, which is a real life thing. I have a buddy who's a police officer, and he was talking about this because he had to shoot somebody once, where it's like, hey man, they gotta just look at your stuff and make sure that like you're approved to actually shoot somebody, and that you didn't like, you weren't like a cowboy or some shit like that. So you get, but literally the board is them just being like, hey, you should be fine. There's gonna go before a board. I'm the chief of police. I'm gonna back you up on this whole thing because it was necessary. And you're like, cool. So you just can't go on missions till it gets cleared up. And then you go to the range, and then you leave the range and come back, and they're like, hey, you're cleared of all charges. And you're like, cool, high fives. And then the last mission is the sniper mission, right? So then there's some guy, and he's a member of a cult, and they like took a bunch of hostages in this building, and so the negotiations is broken down. And so I just did the sniper portion. You can go in and like look around the building and do all that kind of fun stuff as well if you don't sniper qualify. There might be an option to like turn it off if you sniper qualify. I was like, hell no, I'm gonna sniper the shit out of this guy. So I do. So you just sit and you just watch the windows, and you see some like fun full motion video acting from the 90s, just like jumping around the windows, and I go, don't shoot him yet, he's not doing anything, don't shoot him yet. You gotta wait for the green light, right? Otherwise you get fucked. So then you're just kind of waiting, and finally the guy comes over and he's like, he has got a pistol in his hand or something, and he's like swinging around, and then he like pulls a guy out like he's gonna shoot him, and there's a green light, and you go BAM, and then he's dead. And then they, you go through a review board again, and then you're good to go. And that's a fucking game, right? So it took me probably like maybe 2 hours to get through everything, and that includes like reading and watching some of the documentaries. So I didn't watch everything or read everything, but I got through like at least like 50% of that stuff before I was like, all right, I get the gist of what's going on here. And so it was kind of fun, right? I would never buy this game. It is not worth money. But like, if you just want to like, if you're super interested in like what it was like to be a SWAT guy in like the 90s in Los Angeles, like the interviews are pretty interesting. That's probably the best part of the game, to be honest. And that sniper rifle was pretty good too. But all the acting is very, very good, right? For like being a full motion game from like the 90s, Sierra really crushed it out with these generally. Like I feel like the acting they got and like the directing and all that was generally pretty good for these kind of like janky kind of games. But I enjoyed it thoroughly. And yeah, so there you go. And like I said, the following SWAT games are going to be more like tactical shooters, kind of like a Rainbow Six. I think the second one is like it's got that like computer role-playing game, the isometric view, and you control a team. I played some other game like that too, I think. Maybe I played this game. I don't know. Anyway, so go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you guys later. Bye.